Hi, so the first thing I want to say is that somebody's reaction to trauma is very individual to that person. So the first thing that I would do is get to know that person and their specific trauma and get to know your specific relationship to them and try to figure out from there how best to support this person. But I have come up with some things that in general seem to help most people with PTSD no matter what your relationship to them is or what type of trauma that they went through. So just in a general sense, most people with PTSD need safety, control, to know that they are competent, acceptance of their limitations, patience, empathy, and consistency. So those are the things that I would try to give to this person with PTSD that you're trying to support. So starting with safety, no matter what type of trauma somebody went through, it is very likely that they do not feel safe, otherwise it would not be trauma. And so making the person feel as safe as possible is the first step. And that can be shown in so many different ways, even by little tiny steps. For example, not standing in front of the door or standing in front of the exit so that person has a way to get out and doesn't feel trapped inside of their environment. They might also feel trapped in situations that most people might not realize, such as if you are driving them and they're stuck in your car, they might feel like they don't have an escape. And another example is people's body language. Make sure that your body language doesn't come off as intimidating or threatening in any type of way. Make sure that no matter what type of way you do it, that this person feels safe in some type of way. Two other themes of trauma just in general are control and competency. So no matter what type of traumatic situation somebody's been in, they did not feel in control, and they likely were not in control. So they might have problems with this. And so try to give this person decisions to make, try to give them choices, but also understand that in the middle of a flashback or if they are somebody who never had decisions that they could make growing up, they never had control, that it might be hard for them to make decisions at first. And so try not to give them open-ended decisions to make, just instead of saying, oh, what can I do for you, that leaves it open-ended. Maybe give them two options and say oh, would you like to watch a TV show or would you like to talk about what's going on? This gives the person some type of control. Same with the car example I gave a minute ago. If you give them the option to drive their own vehicle, it might make them feel like they're more in control of the situation. And again, we're dealing with people who never had control, so they might not be comfortable with control at first because they have never had the option before, but allowing them to have some type of control would help them feel less helpless, which comes down to the competency thing I was just talking about. People who have been through trauma also do not feel competent. They often have low self-esteem and just do not think very well of themselves. They think that they deserve the trauma and feel bad about themselves and things like that. So by allowing them to have control and having decisions that they can make, it might help them feel more confident in themselves. It might help raise their self-esteem. But at the same time, you need to accept that there's limitations. And so this person might not be able to just get up and go to work the next day, or might not be able to do everything that you might think that they should be able to do. So try to help raise their self-esteem and let them see that they can do stuff. They're not all these bad things that their abuser might have made them feel, or not all these bad things that they might feel after the traumatic event. But at the same time, accept that there's going to be limitations and they might not be able to do everything that you might think that they should do, and accept that. So kind of see where the person's at and see what you can do to kind of help them feel better about themselves, but accept that there's going to be limitations there. Which kind of comes to my next point of patience. Something that somebody with PTSD needs in a friend or a loved one is patience. I cannot tell you how detrimental it can be for somebody to expect somebody who has been through trauma to just get over it. A lot of people, after somebody has experienced a traumatic event, will be very empathetic, very supportive. They would be very nice to the person right after the event. But then if the person still needs help down the line, their patience kind of runs out, and the person thinks that they should be over it by now, and the people stop being as empathetic. And trauma is not something that people just get over right away. It's something that can have lasting effects, and it's very important to have patience with this person and understand that it might take a long time before they fully get better. And for some people, it might still affect them the rest of their lives. And it doesn't mean that there's some things that cannot improve, but just don't expect them to be better right away and be able to go back to their normal selves before the trauma. Be patient with them. Another thing that people with PTSD need is empathy. People need somebody that's going to be understanding, that's going to be accepting of how they are, that's not going to blame them or shame them, and somebody who's not going to be judgmental of them. Make sure obvious things like do not defend the abuser, do not try to push beyond what the person wants to talk about. Be open to having conversations with them and let them know that they can speak to you if they want to, but don't push for more than what the person is willing to share with you. Don't push for more details if they don't want to tell them to you. So make sure to have empathy for them. Do not blame them. Be emotionally validating and be there for them. Imagine what it'd be like if you were in their shoes. And just make sure that nothing that you say could be blaming in any type of way. I also wanted to add with the patients that most people who have been through something traumatic and have PTSD are not going to trust somebody right away, so also be patient in terms of earning their trust, and also don't expect that they will ever fully trust you. A lot of these people might have attachment issues and might have trust issues due to what happened, and don't take that personally, and be patient with that as well. Another thing that people with trauma need, as I said, is consistency. A lot of these people do not have consistency growing up, especially if they're dealing with complex PTSD from childhood trauma. The attachment issues they might have from their parents might be that they were hot or cold, or they didn't have consistency for one reason or another. And so it's very important that if you're helping somebody with PTSD that you are consistent. One thing that I would avoid if you were talking to somebody with PTSD is toxic positivity. Saying certain things might sound good, you might have good intentions, but can actually be detrimental. Saying things like, oh, it probably happened for a reason, something good's going to come out of it. Oh, it made you stronger, it's all going to be better in the end, things are going to get better. There's certain toxic positivity things that people might have the best intentions when saying, but it can actually just be detrimental to the person with PTSD. So I try to avoid those type of things. Don't try to put a positive spin on the traumatic event that happened. Instead, understand that what happened to the person was traumatic and try to be there for them in the moment. If somebody is currently in the middle of a flashback, some things that can be helpful are reminding them of things in their environment that are different than things that were in their environment during the traumatic event. So for example, if somebody is triggered by the color of the paint on the walls, you can remind them of oh hey, we didn't have this painting on the wall during your traumatic event. This wasn't here when you were a kid. This wasn't here during the traumatic event. Things that will remind them, okay, I'm not there anymore, these are the differences. You can also play this game where you can say, hey, can you tell me every blue object in the room, every red object in the room, and it helps ground them and keep them here. Another thing that's very helpful when somebody's in the middle of a flashback is sensory items. For example, ice packs, changing the temperature in the room, having some type of fidget toy. Just different grounding exercises can help ground them and make them realize that they're here in the moment. Asking them what year it is, who's president right now. That might be triggering considering who's president at the moment, but just asking them questions about the here and now and helping remind them that they're safe in the moment. And obviously if they're not safe in the moment, you can support the person by trying to get them to a safe place. Another thing that can help somebody with PTSD is making it where they don't feel like they're a burden. It's very unhelpful when people act like they're too much, or that they're being dramatic, and that their needs are just too much and things of that matter, because people with PTSD often already feel like a burden. They often already hate asking for help or speaking out about what is happening, and so acting like they're too much, that they're a burden in any type of way is going to just reinforce those negative beliefs that they already have about themselves. So try not to say anything that would make them feel like they're a burden or they're too much for you to handle. Hopefully this video is helpful. Of course I left out some things, and again, trauma is individual to the person, so what helps one person might not help another, but I hope there's some helpful advice in this. And yeah, just try to be an empathetic person. At the end of the day, that should really help the person. Thank you. Have a great day.